Day 110 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. I am not a self-help guru. I am Josh Bloom, and I am just trying to help myself. It has been raining hard in New York for several days now, and when the weather gets like this and it is gray outside with no sunlight, it can be a depression trigger. Do you get this way too? Please tell me in the comments. Not only was the weather a depression trigger, but I also started spiraling when I saw so many great jokes about the new Pope from Chicago on the internet, and I didn't have one of my own. I did think that the leader of the Trump administration might say that the Pope election was rigged, but that very well could actually happen, so I forgot about that. Eventually, I was inspired and I found my voice again and created this ridiculous image, which, if you are listening to me right now on the Josh Bloom podcast, you don't get to see. Go to the tube for you, dum-dum. Which brings me to my point on day 110 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. If you are somebody who gets depressed and dark weather increases your symptoms during a moment in world history where we are being inundated all of the time with negative information, it can be a difficult task to ignore the Trump administration because we are already feeling a sensation of frustration. It can be too easy to fall into negative patterns of thought and behavior when we are already vulnerable. What I'd like to do personally when this happens is to remind myself that a better feeling is on the horizon. It always works that way. I tell myself that the way I am feeling down today is actually the day before I will be feeling up. I know I won't feel this way tomorrow because I am capable of the mindfulness, the optimism, and the hope that I talk about here on 1,461 Days of Ignoring the Trump Administration. Even just saying that is so silly sounding, it puts a smile on my face. More smiles are always on the way, so if you are somebody like me who does get into these periods of solemnity, melancholy, and just straight up motherfucking sadness, I want to remind you through reminding myself that there is always a better day to come. So, in some way, I'm actually suggesting that I deal with feeling this way by embracing it. I know it will pass, and there are external forces at work that are contributing to feeling this way to a greater degree than the external forces on a day when the sun is out. Pain is a human feeling, and if you are a human who feels your feelings, then you are a human being who is being human. This is good. Don't ignore your feelings, but do ignore the Trump administration. Day 111 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. I am not a self-help guru. I'm just trying to help myself. I have been disciplining myself over the last 4 days. Don't get any ideas. This is about ignoring the Trump administration. The key thing I have achieved, or more accurately, re-achieved over the last 4 days, is establishing boundaries. Boundaries with myself. If you are new to my channel, then you probably haven't seen my videos where I talk about how I used to weigh nearly 400 pounds. I lost that weight over many years ago, so this is not a video about loose skin. Even though I have succeeded and maintained a weight loss of more than 150 pounds for close to a decade, food is still my go-to drug. So I will always have to be mindful of my behavior, which means saying to myself, that's it. We're done for the day, with no negotiations afterwards. That is how you win, because that is how people without weight problems and difficult relationships with food behave. Those people do not go, I'm just going to eat more because I have nothing to do. I'm bored. I need to be entertained. You can and should acknowledge those thoughts and feelings to yourself. You can admit, I'm bored, I have nothing to do, I want to be entertained. Maybe I'm depressed. Maybe that's why I want to eat. But the response still has to be, I understand, but that's too bad. You have to parent yourself. Going to food is something that so many of us do, probably more people than not. Even though I still struggle, I do not have the kind of life I had 10 years ago when I was so heavy that I couldn't live the kind of life most people live. I had to accept that and come to terms with it to begin to lose the weight. Allowing yourself to accept the reality that you are not living the life you want to live is the first thing that needs to happen to be able to imagine the life you want to live. Then you can start to see the you that you want to be in your mind. If you can't see that in your head, then there's no way you're going to achieve it. It's like trying to hit a target with your eyes closed. Even with your eyes open, you're going to miss that target most of the time, but sometimes you're going to hit that target by accident, and then sometimes you're going to hit it because you've worked up the skill to be able to hit it. Then you know what it feels like. When you know what it feels like, you can think back to the behaviors that led up to it and start repeating those behaviors. And when you repeat those behaviors again and again, then you are living the life that you imagined. During these tough times, as we navigate surviving the Trump administration and the leader of the Trump administration, it is important to stay mindful, optimistic, and hopeful. Ignore those thoughts that try to fool you into thinking that food will help. And while you're at it, ignore the Trump administration. Day 112 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. I am not a self-help guru. I am just trying to help myself. Jim has left the comment, aw, is his whittle feelings hurt? With 4 W's. Now, I dictated what I wanted to say about this before I had a chance to visit Jim's profile, and when I did, I discovered that he is a real person, not a bot. Jim's bio reads, I like guns, knives, motorcycles, guitars, mandolins, dogs, and my family. Jim, I also like mandolins. I bet Losing My Religion by R.E.M. is one of your favorites, too. I would question why you would list your family at the end of the things that you like and why you would say you only like them, but you have your reasons, I'm sure. Why would Jim leave such a condescending comment on my thoughtful video? As I have explained here on 1,461 Days of Ignoring the Trump Administration before, when anyone is making a negative comment towards you or about you, they are almost always, and when I say almost always, I mean always, making a projection about themselves. I do not mean to pick on Jim. He didn't watch my video. He was triggered by seeing 1,461 Days of Ignoring the Trump Administration on the screen. I understand. Before I had the opportunity to get to know Jim, I said to myself that I wanted this comment to be from a real person. I generally find that comments like this are left by bots. I imagine someone in a foreign land in some basement-based propaganda arm of a country that used to be an adversary before being embraced by the leader of the Trump administration, just doing this very type of thing to whittle, to use that word appropriately, accurately, and in the vernacular of which it exists, unlike Jim's baby talk version, to whittle away at the resolve of Americans who are feeling some kind of way about how the country is being run and the state of our population. That's what I imagine. But a real gun and knife liking man made this comment, and it should serve as a lesson for all of us not to waste our precious time on the planet typing into a comment section something so ridiculous. Again, this is not a criticism of Jim. Whatever circumstances brought Jim to write this comment, I feel for those circumstances. I am not better than Jim, but my behavior is better than Jim's. What do they say? Don't hate the player, hate the game. I don't hate this player, but I do hate this player's game. And I actually think hate is the wrong word. It should be, don't direct your ire at the player, direct your ire at the game. And you know what? I don't even know what ire is. I know it is the last 3 letters of Shire, and the first 2 letters of Shire spell shh. I have a feeling Jim heard a lot of that growing up. But Shire is related to the Lord of the Rings, and Jim, you are not my precious. But I harbor no animosity. My feelings on the matter are, as you say, whittle. Now, I must ignore you, Jim. And of course, I must ignore the Trump administration. Diane says, excellent response, sir. Well, thank you very much, Diane. And I have to say, this video represents a milestone for me because it is the very first time that I ever replied to a comment with a video and then had that original commenter delete the comment and block me. And I am frankly honored, and I want to thank Jim, even though he will never see this response. I want to thank Jim for the inspiration, for the comment, and for the block. Thank you, Jim. Day 113 of 1,461 Days of Ignoring the Trump Administration. I am not a self-help guru. I'm just trying to help myself. If you are unfamiliar with Penn Jillette, he is the talking half of the legendary magic duo Penn and Teller, and a runner-up on The Celebrity Apprentice, which was hosted by the leader of the Trump administration. On the most recent episode of the Penn Sunday School podcast, Penn is joined by author Jane Borden to discuss her new book, Cults Like Us: Why Doomsday Thinking Drives America. One of the topics that is brought up is the need to see our enemies suffer and how that relates to the concept of evil. I don't have enemies. I don't want to see them suffer, and that point of view is not me being righteous. It is completely practical. I believe that every human being arrives at who they are through the circumstances that deliver them to the moment that they are in, the moment after that, and the moment after that. I don't believe people are born evil, but so many people's life circumstances deliver them to the moment of evil behavior. When I was a child, my parents told me that they looked for the number 666 on my head because they saw the movie The Omen, in which the possessed child Damien has 666 on his head. I was 4 years old when they told me this. This affected me negatively throughout my life that my parents did that to me. I don't think I was born demonic, but if I was going to be demonic, certainly my parents planting that thought in my head when I was just 4 years old would have been a small catalyst. That 4-year-old is who you are listening to right now. I believe that we don't want to encourage parents and future parents to look for 666 on their children's heads and tell them about it. I realize that, unlike me, the leader of the Trump administration will never come to terms with the emotional neglect he was raised in, and so I choose to condemn his behavior and how his behavior negatively affects the population, including me, including you. I don't need you to believe it negatively affects you, because even if you are a non-believer, I still understand how you got there. I know, it seems odd, but the fact of the matter is I do it because I want you to do it too. Unless you have personally wronged me to the point of no return, I don't perceive people in my life as enemies, and I don't want to see them suffer. I don't want to ignore the circumstances that led to their beliefs and behavior, because I don't want to ignore that in myself. However, I do want to ignore the Trump administration. Day 114 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. I am not a self-help guru. My name is Josh Bloom, and I'm just trying to help myself. Jesus Christ. There is no Christ. When you are told a story, you can be told the truth by two different people who are telling the same story but tell you two different things. This is because the truth is open to perception. Question marks. But Josh, facts are not open to perception. This is true. 2 plus 2 does equal 4. But if someone truly believes that 2 plus 2 equals 5, and they're going to tell you a story, make an argument, and advocate for you to come to the understanding that 2 plus 2 equals 5, then they are likely coming from a place of their own deeply held beliefs. Look at Jimi Hendrix, for example. Is he the type of person who might think and believe that the sky could be kissed? I certainly do. You think of the late, great Janis Joplin. When she sings Won't You Move Over, maybe she thought you were in her way when you were not even near her, but in her mind you were. Is Janis Joplin someone who would think that someone is too close to them even if they were not? I believe so. Carole King sings that she feels the earth move under her feet. When you hear her sing that, that's the reason you love it so much. It is because you are convinced Carole felt that earth move. As the saying goes, there are two sides to every story, and then there's what Josh Bloom believes. Isn't that how the saying goes? What I'm trying to explain with that little quip is that when two people are telling you a tale that they fully believe in, that they completely know to be the accurate depiction of events, it's still subject to the assimilation of the sound that is coming through your ear holes into your brain and how you contrast that with your own life experience. You're probably thinking, Josh, I kinda get it. What you're saying is related to the Trump administration and the leader of the Trump administration and all the falsehoods, half-truths, and outright deceptions that he presents to us on a daily basis. Well, god damn it. Yes, I am. Of course I am. I believe the leader of the Trump administration and the people he gathers around him, also known as the Trump administration, believe every lie they tell. And they believe it because they know the more they believe it, the more you might just believe it a little bit too. You need to be very aware of that. Do not ignore that manipulation. God damn it, ignore the Trump administration. Day 115 of 1,461 days of ignoring. Say it with me. The Trump administration. I am not a self-help guru. I'm just trying to help myself. I am writing a book about a popular indie rock underground music figure, and when I say popular and follow it up with indie rock underground, that is a contradiction. This person is popular, or at least well known in the indie rock underground. I have been contracted to write this book, and I know the subject of this book personally, which poses challenges, but is also a gift. I have a perspective on the person that other authors would not have. How this relates to the leader of the Trump administration is that when you are popular, or at least well known on the indie rock underground, you have indie rock underground powers of celebrity and can use those powers in ways that people could perceive as manipulative. I don't perceive my friend's behavior as manipulative because this person just is who they are. And that is precisely what I think about the leader of the Trump administration. I just want to be very, 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 very clear that I am not equating my friend to the leader of the Trump administration. I am comparing the idea that behavior is inherent to one's being. I don't think there's anything nefarious going on with my friend, and I have news for you. I don't believe that the leader of the Trump administration wakes up in his golden bed and says, I'm going to be nefarious today. At whatever golden age he is, I think he exhibits behavior that at this point is part of who he is. It is up to the individual to choose how they want to regulate behavior that comes naturally. And unlike Warren G., the leader of the Trump administration has chosen deregulation. My friend might be trying to steer a narrative to protect himself, and that is what the leader of the Trump administration does too, because the leader of the Trump administration does not care about anyone else but himself. And while my friend does care about other people, you can see the motivation is the same: self-protection. Now that I have drawn this comparison, I will stop there because one of these people is my friend and the other is not. The point here is that it is crucial to understand the motivations of others and also of yourself. I am not a righteous person. I fear the wrath of the universe if I treat people like shit without accounting for my behavior when confronted by others or by a more evolved version of myself. And that includes being aware of my friend's feelings while also trying to understand the motivations behind his behavior. When you understand the motivations of the leader of the Trump administration, you can ignore the Trump administration. Day 116 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. I am not a self-help guru, and until I am paid to be one, I am just trying to help myself. Here on day 116 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration, it is once again a day for celebration. Even though the Trump administration continues to try to destabilize the nation and cause frustration among the population. Some may talk of cessation. But now that I am done with that little rhyme scheme, here is what I mean. I want to let you know that today we are 8% through 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration, and it feels good. At this moment, I have to remind myself and therefore remind you that unfortunately, we will have to suffer through this. But suffer through this we will, and it is about time. It is so satisfying to see the corruption right before our eyes. You cannot put out a fire if you don't know where that fire is. You cannot operate on a patient without those overhead surgical lights. And Rodney Dangerfield in Caddyshack can't cheat at golf without his putter with that special viewfinder attached to it. I am sure that the leader of the Trump administration would love one of those, but until he does, he'll just have to keep cheating at golf the old-fashioned way. The point is, you can't solve problems without seeing what those problems are. So we should consider ourselves lucky that the leader of the Trump administration and the Trump administration have made their corruption so easy to see. So, as we continue with 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration, please remind yourself that this corruption must unfold and will unfold anyway. It only represents corruption that has always existed in government and throughout the world by people who, for whatever their reasons, want to exert power over others. And for that to change, it must be flushed out. In the meantime, 1. Do not forget to ease off on that news consumption that includes overhearing conversations at your local restaurants, which is something that I do all the time. And I have to remind myself, Josh, try to listen to the voices in your head instead, because at least they're saying things that make sense. And 2, use that time, use that energy, use that clarity of mind as you reclaim that time you gain from taking in less of that nonsensical but consequential information to be more creative in your life. Spend time with what makes you happy and helps you grow, and give of yourself to others around you who might be less inclined to feel as mindful, optimistic, and hopeful as you. Please do not ignore them. Continue to ignore the Trump administration.